Before we get into this episode, there's something that might be of interest that I wanted to tell you about. Scene and Heard, who run this podcast, have been asked by Scotland Food and Drink to undertake a strategic review of the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards. Now, these Excellence Awards have been going for almost 20 years and are a huge mainstay of the food and drink sector. But it's time to ensure that they're still relevant. So if you have ever been involved in the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards, or even if you've ever had an opinion about them, we would love for you, please, to complete our survey. So if you go to the OnFARM Twitter, which is at @on_farm UK, and click the link in the bio, there will be a tab in there that will take you to the survey, and it should only take you a very short while to complete, but we would be enormously grateful. Welcome to episode 11 of On Farm with the Royal Highland and Agricultural Society of Scotland. I'm Anna Davis, and I thought we'd start this time by introducing you to the horses here at the farm. I'm joined by Gentle Giant Duke, Welsh Pony Chuckles, and Miniature Shetland Angus. We only compete at small local shows, but these boys are a huge part of our lives. Certainly for me, over COVID, they've been a great tonic for being able to escape into the countryside and fresh air and relieve some of the stress. As for my daughters, I think having a pony helps them to develop compassion, discipline, patience, responsibility, and so much more. Good boy. So this episode is all about the relationship so many of us have with these beautiful creatures. Hearing from all sorts of people involved in competing with horses in many different ways at the Highland Show.
My name is Anne Logan. I'm a Stirling Area Director for the Royal Highland and Agricultural Society of Scotland. My responsibility at the Royal Highland Show is Chief Steward of Show Jumping. I'm also actually Chairman of British Show Jumping Scotland, and I work still part-time as an equine vet with Lohoar Equine Practice. And my daughter used to show jump and event, so yes, I suppose I do have a bit of experience.
You certainly do. Now, for this episode of the podcast, we are going to be chatting to a couple of show jumpers. So that's your particular area of expertise. But we're also hoping to talk to people who show Highland ponies, Welsh ponies, Clydesdales. We've also got a chat with a farrier lined up because, of course, none of these horsey people could do what they do without the support of farriers and vets like yourself. But I'd love to get from you sort of some of the sort of bigger picture stuff. And I guess starting off with, why do you think it is so important to have such a vibrant equestrian presence at the Highland Show?
Equestrianism in Scotland is probably worth about 300 million to the Scottish economy, and the Royal Highland Show showcases everything equestrian within Scotland. There's a huge amount of people who just come to watch horses because they love them. They don't own them, but they love to see, and they love to see the show jumpers in the main ring. Sometimes people who have been in the Olympics or the European teams, people book their holidays from one year to the next to make sure that they can go to the show.
What do you think it is that keeps drawing competitors to come back year after year to take part in the Highland Show?
For the Scottish competitor, it's a great thing to compete at the Royal Highland Show. For the competitors that come up from the south, they come because we have HOIS qualifiers. I'd like to say they come because we are the best show in the country. But more importantly, the show jumpers come because we have a large money pot for them to win. But mostly for the showing people, the light horse, the HOIS qualifiers are important. For the Clydesdales, the Highlands and the Shetlands, it's their Olympics. To win at the Highland is probably the accolade that they all want to achieve.
Thanks to Anne Logan. We'll hear more from her later on in the episode. My eldest daughter, Honor, who's 6, has just joined the Pony Club, and we managed one outing before COVID put paid to events for the time being. Honor, what do you think you're looking forward to the most when the Pony Club starts up again?
Winning and having fun.
Winning? Oh, you think you might win?
Maybe.
Fingers crossed?
Yeah.
And do you think Chuckles will behave himself?
I hope he does.
Oh, good. For many of us, Pony Club is the first toe in the water of equestrian sports. It's how most show jumpers, including many Olympic champions, very first got the bug. It's also a favourite spectacle in the Highland Show's main ring.
I'm Catriona Willison. I'm the Pony Club area rep from Stirling, right the way north to Orkney, and includes the Western Isles. I'm also on the Mounted Games Committee for Pony Club.
Ah, right. And that is one of the reasons why we're speaking to you today. Could you perhaps tell us a bit about what Pony Club Games is and how it plays out at the Highland Show?
Yeah, Mounted Games are for ordinary children on ordinary ponies to have fun. It's fast and furious. It was an idea thought up by Prince Philip for all children to have fun on their ponies. It's very, very competitive sport, but also anyone can have a shot. The highlight of many a child's career is to take part in the Highland Show in the main ring with all the branch standing round cheering quite happily for them. It's just, lots of smiles on that day from the children. There's the bending race, which is very, very fast, where they bend in and out of poles, up and down, and pass on to the next team member. There's always lots of cheering for that one. And if they knock a pole over, they have to go off and fix it. So sometimes it's not always the fastest team that wins. Sometimes it can be the team that corrects a mistake the quickest. There's also lots of games where they have to put a ball in a bucket. Now, if you see these little ponies going so fast, and the children can actually get a ball into a bucket or balance a ball on top of a traffic cone at the speed they're going at, it's just amazing. And all that in between, they're getting on and off. Stepping stones, they have to jump off, run across the stepping stones, jump back on, and the way the children vault onto these ponies is absolutely amazing.
It sure is, and that's why I was never any good at it myself. It must involve a lot of practice and a lot of discipline, so actually it's quite a good thing for children to be involved in, I imagine.
Absolutely, and teamwork as well. You have to have a huge team about you, not just the team on the ponies. It's a huge effort from all parents, members, and they practice all winter. Unfortunately, this year, obviously, that hasn't happened. They're just getting out and about now. But teams will practice all winter for competitions that start off very early April. And it's the top 6 teams in Scotland that qualify to take part in the Highland Show.
So, yeah, everything you learn doing Pony Club Games is pretty applicable for going through life, I guess, isn't it? Teamwork, accuracy, detail, practice, it's all there.
And the highs and lows as well. You're not going to win every week, and every year you're not going to win at the Highland Show. But when you do, it's an extra bonus.
Definitely. And so we can see everybody back next year at the Highland Show enjoying the thrill, can we?
Absolutely. Yes, even more so than normal, I think. They'll be so glad to get out because we've had no competitions this year at all. So they'll be very happy to take part in something next year.
Up next, someone else who first got the bug for being around ponies as a small child. But as he freely admits, that was quite some time ago. Tom Best is a retired teacher and passionate breeder and shower of ponies, particularly Welsh ponies.
One of the things that drove me, the very first show I attended with a pony was the first pony I ever owned. We were 4th in the 12-2 class, because that's the only class we could go. Got that green rosette, thrilled to bits. Now, in our area, we had a very snooty little girl who went to private school in Edinburgh, and she had this very quality riding pony. But she said to me, "Who did the plaits on your pony?" So I stuck out my chest and said, "I did. I did them last night." "And what about the tail?" I said, "Yeah, I did that as well. Yeah, I'm really very pleased with it." And she said to me, "It's very obvious a man did that." And I said, "I don't know what you mean." She said, "Because they are so awful, they are so untidy, they're dreadful." I was so affronted and ashamed by that. And I decided at that moment, no one would ever say that to me about the turnout of a pony or horse at a show. And it was many, many years later, a good friend now and a very well-known professional in England called Stuart Hollings, he passed a casual remark at a show. And I thought my ponies were beautifully turned out by this time. And he said, "It's a pity you hadn't quite got the hang of the plaits in the mane." And I said, "Really?" "Yeah," he said, "they have to be tidier than that. They're not even, they're not equal." And he was my next driver, I can tell you. And it's that kick in the backside you sometimes need, an honest opinion And I think my plats eventually in these little riding ponies became immaculate, so much so that the kind of icing on the cake for me at a major show at Malvern, one of the top professionals, because there was a clashing, I need to get ask them to bring my pony to the ring. This top groom said to me, I'll do that if you show me how to do the flash marks on your pony's quarter, because none of us can work out how you're doing those, and they're absolutely beautiful. Well, I'd made it. I'd absolutely made it at that point.
Along with his business partner David Blair, Tom set up the Waxwing Stud in Fife in 1972.
For some reason, I took to ponies, and that was a long, long time ago. I'd be still at school when I was interested in them, and it's developed ever since. You know, given that I'm now 69, it's been a long, long journey, and it never ends, and I'm glad. It's wonderful, fantastic. I live in Salon, and along with my partner at the stud here, David Blair, we breed Welsh Section B ponies, but we've bred a selection of breeds over the years, mainly Welsh. We are judges. I judge for various panels, Welsh panel obvious, but I also judge ridden show ponies and hunter ponies for the British Show Pony Society. I judge for the National Pony Society, the Showing Register. So I'm on a number of panels.
Can you just tell me, what is it about Welsh ponies that kind of captured your heart?
I think it was Welsh ponies and Wales. I think there was a combination of both. But I think there's another thing. I like pictures. I love paintings. I'm interested in art. And so I think there's a value in looking at something. Looking at a Welsh pony, it's particularly beautiful. And I think that's a key thing. They're lovely. And we also had, apart from the Welsh ponies, we've had the British riding pony, which is that very quality, ethereal, kind of ballet dancer type of pony that struts its stuff like Naomi Campbell, and it's just a beautiful thing to look at. And so I don't apologise for just liking to look at something, and I think that the Welsh pony has a particular beauty, especially through its eyes. There's great big poppy eyes and the dished face. Yeah, I just love them. So I've liked them and the breed from a very long time.
And how quickly was it then before you started to get involved in the showing circuit?
Well, in fact, I thought you'd ask me this question. So these two ponies, Norwood Trickle and Norwood Snowberry, were our very first entries at the Royal Highland Show. That was 1970. Now, I'd been going to the Highland Show for 10 years prior to that. I first went to the Highland Show in 1960 when the show moved to its permanent site at Ingliston. So I was just a boy. I was just a lad. 10 years after that very first visit to the Royal Highland, I found myself showing these two ponies. So David Blair and I shared interest, and we showed these two ponies. Needless to say, they won absolutely nothing. But the next year we got some rosettes, which was great. And I noticed that the very first time we won a first rosette at the Highland Show was in 1974. So that was when I first had a red rosette at the Highland Show. And the pony we won it with was a pony called Pentland Monarch that we had bought for £50 as a colt foal. Well, at that time, we still felt other people won those rosettes, first rosettes. We never entered thinking that we could win a red rosette that day. And to stand at the top of the line when it had been an ambition, it's something you had been looking forward to. You know, it's that moment when time actually stands still and you're almost looking in at yourself thinking, I'm going to win that red rosette. So it's actually the anticipation and the red rosette coming towards you. It's almost happening in slow motion. And you think, but yeah, I've got this red rosette. It was absolutely fantastic. It was a great feeling. It was achievement. It was enjoyment. It was feeling as if this is where I now want to be. And without knowing it, it was setting the standard for the future. Some 20 years later, in 1994, we won the supreme accolade of light horse at the Highland Show with a homebred Welsh Section C called Waxwing Reward. and he qualified for the Horse of the Year show.
Thank you to Tom for sharing his stories. One thing that's becoming clear is that keeping horses seriously is usually a mix of passion, hobby, work and lifestyle. Your choice of breed, though, or competition indeed, can sometimes be a happy accident.
I'm Jo Jack. I live near St Andrews, just south of St Andrews.
So can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with Highland ponies?
Yeah, I got introduced to them in 1981 when friends of my parents who had a stud up Glenesk wanted a mare ridden and wondered if I would try and ride it at the Highland Show. So I got given this very accident-prone mare and I ventured to the Highland Show age 16. She had spent more time being injured than being ridden, so we were at the end of the line, but the seed was sown. I don't think I've missed a show since.
Really? Wow. So she not only introduced you to a love of going to the Highland Show, but also a love of the Highland breed.
Yes. It was just an introduction to one of the best shows definitely in the country, probably the world. I know that because when you're away judging other places, you meet people and you say about the Highland Show, and it's the show they all want to come to. It's the show they all want to judge at. It's the one they've heard so much about. So, and we're sitting there quite smugly going, we're here every year.
Presumably during your showing career, you must have brought home, I presume, a red rosette or more from the Highland Show, did you?
I've been very lucky. I think there's an element of luck because it's obviously what the judge likes on the day when you're showing. Not like the show jumpers, they have to perform, whereas as showing, it's very much a judge's choice of the day. But yes, after my first fairly disastrous appearance at the Highland Show, I was given a mare by Nancy and Gordon McIntosh, who were up Glenesk, Dalbrack. They gave me a filly to break and back, and I took her there as a 4-year-old and was, I think, last. I took her back as a 5-year-old, and the judge said, "It's not your day, but it will be." And I think it was, I think she was 6, she's made 7, I think, and yes, she was Highland Show champion at 7. So I was very lucky. I got my first championship quite early on in my career.
Yes.
And the more I've worked with the ponies, the more I've learned. I keep learning that, they're all individual. Some mature that bit quicker than others, and others are just a bit slower. But, just take your time and just work hard, be disciplined, be consistent. And if you are good enough, if you are on the right tracks, you will get the rewards.
And you obviously have. Well done. Can you think back? Can you transport yourself back to that day when you won that very first red rosette, and try, if you're able to, describe to us how you felt?
Yeah, I was kind of looking at the pictures just recently because there's been no shows this year. There's been a lot of reminiscing, and yes, I can remember the excitement, the emotion, crying my eyes out and then thinking, oh no, I've got a red nose for the pictures now. So it was a bit embarrassing. But yes, the whole excitement of it still doesn't leave you. Or even if you're, and as somebody said already, even if it's a blue rosette or a yellow rosette, it's still a Highland Show. To be placed. I always think if you get in the top 6 at the Highland Show, you're doing okay.
Oh, well, absolutely, because I am a horse rider, but not anywhere near that sort of league. So it's absolutely a badge of honour and achievement. Now, I have 3 or 4 friends who show Highland ponies at the Highland Show, and whilst I've never been myself, because I'm probably not invited, I hear that there are some fairly fun parties that go on, particularly after you've won that red rosette or even a blue one.
It's funny. In the old days, there used to be very, very organised parties. Like if you were champion, you went and got yourself sorted up, and then everybody would be round that night and celebrate. And it was the second time I was champion. I remember the owners, it was totally unexpected, and the owners went out straight to the supermarket, bought as much fizz and things as they could, came back, and we had the most amazing party in the old canvas huts. Nowadays, we had the big ceilidh, which was great fun, but it sadly got a little bit too big. So we're back to just parties in the boxes, and they can be quite impromptu now. You can be down there just chatting away to some friends, and the next thing, everybody's drawn their chairs up, the kist has been opened, whoever's box it is serves up whatever's in that box, and then somebody else will come along, and then and it's just that party will grow, and then people will drift off. And before you know, you've got another party just down the way or up the way. And it's just such a lovely social atmosphere. That's the biggest single thing I think we've all missed this year. You know, we have our box parties, and then we also have the fire out the barbecues and things out in the car park where a lot of us are staying in lorries and camper vans and things.
Now, this might be the most difficult question I'm going to ask you. When you go to the Highland Show, what's more important, the winning or the taking part?
Going back to what I said, it's the judge's choice in the day. It has to be the taking part. Winning's a bonus. And yeah, it's fantastic. But no, being part of the party, being part of the whole show, whether it's competing, whether it's grooming, whether it's judging, just being part of it is, to me, the biggest thing. If I do well, brilliant, great fun. But it's not the be-all and end-all.
Jo Jack, competitor, steward, judge, all with a passion for Highland ponies. Thanks to her for taking the time to speak with us.
Well, I'm Stephen Lohoar. I'm 32 years old. We live just a mile outside St Andrews. Yeah, we have an equestrian business where we buy and sell horses. We compete show jumping up to kind of 3-star Grand Prix level.
And I'm the older brother. I'm Angus Lohoar. I'm 35 years old. And of course, I'm the most important one in the business because I'm the older brother, you know. But we both work together really well. And to be fair, the one thing is it's very much a combined effort. We work as a good team because we both have very strong... the word?
I would say, like, some of us, like I'd say I do slightly more of the competing side and Angus does more of the teaching and training, and it all kind of works as one, really.
Yeah, excellent. So a perfect family business, really. Yeah, and I have to say, I'm an older sibling, so I totally get where you're coming from there, Angus. So has horses been part of your lives then since you were kind of knee-high to a grasshopper?
Not really, no. My mum and dad were farmers. They rode when they were kids, and just at a very much got rough and ready on the farm, as kind of every farmer does. They jump on their ponies and canter through the woods kind of thing. And then we started developing a small livery yard business as one of my dad's developments. And then we started riding, and that was maybe when I was 13 years old. And then by the time I was 16, I'd competed at the Highland Show. So it kind of went from zero to a lot in quite a quick space of time.
Yeah. So, tell me about that first. You said you were 16 when you first went to the Highland Show. Tell me about that. How did it feel to be kind of going to the show within sort of the Scottish farming and equestrian world? Yeah,
absolutely. The Highland Show is the most special show to us anyway. It's been in our family, farming families for a few generations now. So since I've been born, I've been going to the Highland Show. First of all with the agricultural side, and then since I've probably been 16, I've been competed at the Highland Show every year ever since.
The atmosphere.
Oh, the atmosphere is unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Did that contribute in any way to your level of nervousness then the first time you competed? Because it is like a kind of, wow, I'm really here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Of course. I think I'd say it's not necessarily nerves. It's more the will to want to do well. Not only just for me, but obviously we're riding your horse, you're kind of wanting the horse to do well, and you believe in them and you want them to kind of show off what they're made of. And one of my favourite classes of the show is the Andrew Black speed class in the main ring on the Friday afternoon. It has the most unbelievable atmosphere. God, there must be, 15,000-20,000 people watching on the Friday and Saturday afternoons, which is an unbelievable feeling. And first three riders go back in and can try and have the chance to beat their original time. And it's a table C speed class, so if you knock a fence down, you have to go faster. So the crowd really get behind them, and all the riders and the horses usually rise to the occasion. And I would say classes like them, they are very, very special to the show. And then obviously once you finish up, it's great to meet all your friends and family, and from cousins to riding friends and clients to sponsors. We were sponsored by, for example, Devico Saddles. They'll usually have a stand there. I think it generally is, the Highland Show's a special thing because it does every single element to what we're doing.
Yeah, and I guess I don't really like this word, but I guess networking kind of comes to mind. You know, you're both running a business, so it's really important for you to speak with and meet with, as you say, sponsors, people you have sold horses to, people you might sell horses to in the future. So I guess that's kind of a key part of it as well. It's just the great thing about the Highland Show is that you can quite often network with a glass of something in your hand at the same time.
Definitely, absolutely. It's we always have a running joke of how long will it take us to get from the show jumping collecting ring up to the members, and sometimes it can take an hour or two. So it's which is part of the parcel. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen, you mentioned the crowds. You know, the show jumping, but not just the show jumping. All of the horsey classes really do draw crowds. People love to go and watch horses. But how important do you think it is that the Highland Show and other regional and local shows have a key horsey element and sort of display equestrianism to the wider public?
Yeah, definitely. I said I kind of concentrate a little bit more. I've said a little bit about the sport element of it. So there's actual competition. It's not just that. As I said, there's friends of ours, like for example Ronnie Black at Clydesdales. They do a lot of showing. And there's people doing the working hunter classes, people doing lead rein ponies. So you can actually have kids as young as 4 and 5 competing there, up to people. I think there'll be some show jumping people in their 60s that are competing. So it does have such a diverse group of people. It's not just down to the wealth of people either. People can qualify on ponies that are worth hundreds of pounds, as well as maybe some of the Grand Prix jumping horses worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. So when you're competing at any discipline at the Highland Show, you know it's a special occasion.
Thanks also to the Lohoar brothers. Stephen mentioned Ronnie Black, veteran Clydesdale breeder, also from Fife. We've had a lot of people from Fife in this episode, actually. Not intentional, and we'll get back to some geographical diversity next time, I promise. Clydesdales are intrinsically linked with Scotland's heritage, and these iconic gentle giants have a special place in many people's hearts.
I'm Ronnie Black, Newton of Collessie, Ladybank, Fife, born 14/1/47. I farm in partnership with the wife Dory and 2 boys, Mike and Pete. We breed Clydesdales. I've been around these horses all my life. My father had them, my grandfather had them. And we've met a lot of nice, lovely people who have bought animals from us, and it's a bit like a club. We keep in touch with these people that buy them from us and follow the thing through.
Over the years, you've done extremely well, haven't you? Not just at the Highland Show, but at other shows as well. But can you tell us a bit more about some of your wins and some of the ones that stick in your mind?
Milestone ones would be when we won the Highland Show in our own name in 2004 with a filly called the Collessie Duchess. She was our first champion at the Highland. We'd done very well showing and producing for a family called Trotter from Ormiston Mains in East Lothian. Robert was a great supporter of us, and we looked after his horses with great success, winning the Highland in 1999 with Sophie, and then with Amelie. She was reserved as a yearling. Amelie was Sophie's daughter. Amelie came back as a 5-year-old and was champion for the second time, and her daughter Amber won after that, and then Amber became our property, and she produced Jennifer, and Jennifer won it as a yearling.
If you were to close your eyes now and transport yourself back to 2004 and standing in the ring when you find out that you've won, what were those feelings like? What's going on inside your head and your heart?
Well, it's just a bit of a buzz, isn't it? It's a pride thing. You've nurtured this animal from birth and brought it on. There's been a few hurdles to overcome. It's a bit like the Olympics. The Highland would be the Clydesdale Olympics, as it is for many other breeds, I'm sure. That's what we aim for.
Is it the protection of the breed that's part of your motivation to carry on looking after these lovely animals?
Well, that's a sideshow to having them and enjoying them, to be honest. But it is important to try and keep the thing alive. You know, when I was a child, these animals were all on farms. It was all farmers that had them. But today, a lot of different types of people who are very, very important for the breed have them. You know, the dyed-in-the-wool, the old Clydesdale guys are getting pretty scarce, to be honest. So yeah, we do enjoy doing what we're doing, and hopefully we are helping the breed to stay afloat.
If any of our listeners who aren't horsey might think, gosh, these Clydesdales are enormous and really quite intimidating, but But I know that actually, yes, they are enormous, but intimidating they're not, because they're hugely good-natured, aren't they? Are they a lovely breed to be around?
Yeah, they're characters in their own way, really. The tag is the gentle giant, and that's really what most of them are. They're a bit like people. We're not all perfect, but the nice ones are superb and they're intelligent. As would be evidenced by their working days, when they would, they do a lot by voice command, and they were easy to deal with. You can see these guys who do the driving of them, they've got terrific control of them. They do a lot by voice and just touch on the reins, and once they've got them properly schooled, they're very impressive.
They certainly are. They're so... For being so big, they're so graceful and elegant to watch. I think it's really, really lovely. One of the mares that you have at the moment, Jennifer, I know that you and she were modelled in 2017, and you took part in a photo shoot as the hero image of the Royal Highland Show 2017. Was that quite an honour to be involved in that?
Yeah, indeed it was. It was a great... buzz as well. We've had a few buzzes with that Highland Show, and this was just another one. The whole thing took a bit of time to get it how they wanted it, but it was all worthwhile in the end, because the end result was obviously successful.
As we discussed, none of the competitors within any of the horse rings at the Highland Show could manage without those who work behind the scenes, such as vets, grooms and farriers.
My name's Robb. I'm an associate of the Whistle Company of Farriers, and I've shod in and around the borders for 30 years, and I've spent 40 years learning how to shoe horses. Some will say that the training's only 5 years, but the truth of the matter is that you never stop learning. As far as competitions go, I find that competing for me just brings another level. It means that I learn new skills, and it keeps my eye on the ball, maintaining my quality. My baptism of fire at the Highland Show was roughly 30 years ago, and at that time it was in an old tin covered shed with a canvas bit out the front. In those days they used coal, and the coal fires were extremely hot. I remember coming into the forge and seeing these massive big volcanoes in each fire. They kept these fires there's a real art to using coal. And that's what I find the competition so good. You're basically passing knowledge on. The younger lads can go, they can come and watch us working, and they learn from that.
Because, as long as people compete and ride horses, we're always going to need new farriers coming through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting to the stage now where I'm starting to ease back a bit. I've trained 9 apprentices, my daughter being one of them. It's also been really amazing to see the Scottish Farrier team develop. The Highland Show offered us the forge as a sort of permanent home for the Scottish Farrier. We now use that for team practices throughout the year. Obviously this year's been very different. We know the facilities are really good. So we have a great depth of horseshoeing skills in Scotland, and like I say, the Highland Show is definitely an integral part of that, and helping to promote the skills. And I think also it's a great, from a competitor's point of view, it's great to see so many public come and watch us as well, because obviously they hear the anvil going, they smell the smoke, and it does bring them in, so it's a great crowd puller as well.
And you can see why, because I almost wish we had video here instead of a podcast, because it's fascinating for people to see and to watch. We've talked to show jumpers and Clydesdale breeders and Highland Pony breeders throughout this episode, and you probably wouldn't use this term to describe yourself, but they talk about the unsung heroes of the horsey world, because they're out in the ring competing, but they couldn't do what they do without the farrier and the vet and the groom and everybody that supports them. You probably wouldn't call yourself an unsung hero, but do you find that you get a good deal of thanks for your contribution in the whole cycle?
We get some. Obviously, the skill in this job is keeping and maintaining horses sound.
Yeah.
Occasionally we'll get problems like laminitis or conformational problems, and obviously we have to pull out that little bit extra for them.
Yes.
But I think, again, to be good at the job is to be able to maintain soundness in horses, and that's where competing helps, is just maintaining your standard, keeping your eye on the ball,
And I'm talking to you as lockdown restrictions are easing, but Farrier is obviously extremely important for animal welfare. So you've been a key worker and out and about doing your job throughout
Yeah, and
lockdown,
again, I think we probably haven't. Well, we don't seek recognition. We're just doing our job. But yeah, I think if we hadn't been out doing our job, we would have a lot of welfare issues by now. We have all sorts of things that affect the feet, the weather being one of them. With after having such a really long wet winter and then a real dry spell, the feet tend to suffer one way or the other.
Just before we finish up, one last word with Highland Show director Anne Logan on something that's become a bit of a theme for this episode: the importance of winning versus the love of just being involved with horses and with the show.
The taking part's important, but winning the Rosette is the ultimate, undoubtedly. I mean, people will treasure their rosettes from the Royal Highland. I mean, if you ask the equine photographer, he's inundated with people just buying the photograph of them, not just competing at the Highland Show, but then if they actually are in the lineup and win a prize, then they'll probably buy 2, 3 or 4 photographs, because it's a memory that they will always have.
Absolutely. But I suppose also that's where equestrian sports perhaps differ from golf, as an example, in that you're dealing with a living, breathing animal that you have a huge bond with, as well as the fact that animal is something that you compete with. And do you think that makes equestrian sports, for that reason, a bit different to others?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because whether you're showing them on the flat or you're riding them or you're show jumping, it's a partnership with your animal. And there's a passion there for that animal. So, yeah, absolutely. It's a partnership and a combination of success.
Many thanks to Anne and to everyone we've heard from this time. This has been a particularly enjoyable episode of OnFARM for me to be involved in, because horses are one of my real passions. I hope that you have enjoyed it too. It was certainly inspiring to speak to so many other people with the same passion, as well as those with a bit more skill and perhaps more patience than I think I am probably blessed with. As we've said before, please do help us to share these episodes if you can. If you know anyone who is yet to listen to OnFARM, surely not, but who loves horses, this episode might be the perfect introduction. So please do help us spread the word. Monty and I will both be with you next time for a joint episode looking at history and heritage associated with the Royal Highland Society, the Royal Highland Show and Scottish rural life in general. So we'll see you then.